Ali Larijani was at his daughter's residence along with his son, and that's when those Israeli strikes took him down along with his bodyguards, his deputy, and many others. He was head of the Iranian Supreme National Security Council and effectively the national security advisor. He was politically powerful. He guided Iran's nuclear and security policy, like most national security advisors do. And in the post-Khamenei era, he was even more powerful. In fact, as someone who had worked closely with Ayatollah Khamenei, he was against the elevation of Khamenei's son Mujtaba as the next Ayatollah or the supreme leader, on the grounds that the senior Khamenei had opposed Mujtaba's elevation, or Mujtaba's gliding into the role of supreme leader after his own death. So in that sense, Larijani provided both a continuity as also a break. It's surprising that the Israelis and the Americans decided to go after him and kill him. Till September last year, in fact, he was being toyed as a replacement of Ayatollah Khamenei himself in the eyes of the Americans in the back-channel dialogue that was taking place. Okay, we have a guest with us, joining us on this conversation broadcast, even as we stay with these pictures. Ishita was right. These are strong, these pictures send a strong message of people's support, or continuing people's support to the government in Tehran, to the regime in Tehran, and that this is anything but regime change. This is actually support, a strong support coming in for the present leadership and the people coming out in these big numbers in the streets and squares of Tehran, even as the funeral of Ali Larijani, the last journey of Ali Larijani goes through the thoroughfares of Tehran. We are joined in by Lieutenant General Asit Mistry. He's a defense expert. And very good afternoon to you, General Mistry, and my question is, going by these pictures, regime change looks even more distant.
Good afternoon to you. Yes, most certainly, regime change looks quite a distance from here, and this is a strong message of defiance. This is a message of defiance by the people, and therefore the question of regime change remains, like a mirage. And Larijani, as you know, was pivotal to the resistance of Iran right from January. In fact, he was the de facto man controlling all activities of the government in terms of handling the crowds and in terms of the rebellion, as also the resistance to the offensive by the Americans and the Israelis.
All right, thank you so much, General Mistry, for joining us with those, with that perspective. And for now, we are coming out of these pictures, powerful pictures, nevertheless, from Tehran, of people's support to the present regime and the government, and of course, outpouring of grief on the killing of Ali Larijani, whose last journey is there in these pictures. Moving on, but staying with war, and the saber rattling that seems to be happening on the issue of Cuba. Is Cuba next? Is the question, given the kind of comments that have come from President Trump last evening, in which he has said that maybe he can take Cuba wherever he wants. A beautiful island there and more real estate. Now Cuba has responded, and the Cuban response is coming in from their leader, who has said that US would face unbreakable resistance if it tries to take over the if they try to take over the island nation. And remember, it's a communist regime there, and there is a nationwide electricity grid failure or blackout that's going on. And we have a statement attributed to Miguel Diaz Canel. He's the president of Cuba and first secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba. And there you see him in pictures. If there's a soundbite, can we play that? Miguel Diaz-Canel. Okay, we have. Let's listen to him. Okay, so the Cuban president hitting back at President Trump for dragging in Cuba. Remember, earlier we had the Americans taking out Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Then the Americans went after Iran, eliminated Ayatollah Khamenei and rest of the leadership. And now Cuba being mentioned. Cuban leadership, of course, responding like any leadership would when their sovereignty is challenged. Moving on, the US President Donald Trump, like we mentioned, is now eyeing Cuba, saying that the island nation is next. And he's made a series of claims on the same, the last being last evening. If we have a soundbite, let's listen to it.
Donald Trump escalated his rhetoric against Cuba, claiming he expected the honor of taking Cuba in some form, and asserting that he can do anything he wanted with the island nation.
I think Cuba, I don't know, in its own way, for tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change. They won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba's seen the end. All my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah.
The US president also said that Cuba is a weakened nation and with very violent leaders. His statements were backed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, stating that the Cuban governmental system have to change dramatically.
Their economy doesn't work. It's a non-functional economy. It's an economy that has survived. That revolution, it's not even a revolution, that thing they have, has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge.
Meanwhile, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has responded strongly against these remarks, saying any external aggression will be responded with an impregnable resistance. Cuba is reeling from repeated nationwide blackout as its electrical grid collapsed amid a harsh US oil blockade in the country, deepening its economic crisis and political tensions with the US. While these threats stem from decades of US sanctions and mutual enmity, the recent statements come as geopolitical tensions escalate alongside the conflict in Iran. Previously, Donald Trump said a deal would be made very easily with Cuba, while saying the focus right now is on Iran.
All right, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in fact, is of Cuban descent, and perhaps he's egging on the Trump administration and the president himself for going to Cuba next after they are done with Iran, of course, which does not seem like way anytime soon. But moving on, staying with the war, American Fifth Fleet at Bahrain, their headquarters, has suffered some damage after Iranian drone strikes. These are pictures coming in of damage at the U.S. Naval Support Facility of the Fifth Fleet base in Bahrain. These seem like targeted drone strikes or missile strikes in Bahrain and at the U.S. naval base of the Fifth Fleet. Remember, the Bahrain Emirate hosts the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet of the U.S. Navy. And these pictures are of some damage caused by Iranian strikes. All right, moving on, staying with the war. A major rift is emerging within the Western alliance, it seems. US President Donald Trump has launched a sharp attack on NATO and his allies, accusing them of refusing to support American military operations against Iran. In a strongly worded statement, Trump said most NATO countries have declined to get involved despite backing Washington's stance that Iran must not acquire nuclear weapons, calling NATO a one-way street. Trump questioned the alliance's relevance, saying the US spends billions protecting its partners but receives little support in return, a position Trump has maintained since his first term. Take a look.
US President Donald Trump has lashed out at NATO, saying most allies have declined to support American military operations against Iran. In a strongly worded post on his Truth Social, Trump called NATO a one-way street, claiming the US spends billions protecting allies who fail to stand by it in times of need. He also asserted that the US does not need NATO's help, pointing to what he described as America's decisive military success against Iran.
Well, no, I just think that it's not good for a partnership when they say what you're doing is a great thing, but we're not going to help.
Trump's remarks come as several European nations, including France, have refused to join military operations, instead pushing for diplomacy. The reluctance stems from fears of a wider conflict and the risk to global energy supplies, especially with tensions escalating in the Strait of Hormuz. The latest comments highlight deepening cracks within the Western alliance as Iran conflict tests unity between the US and its traditional partners.
All right, moving on. Iran has rejected any suggestion that it's willing to de-escalate now that it has lost at least two rungs of leadership, the latest being Ali Larijani. Coming up after a short break on the other side.
Our pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला.
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We are all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज दे रहे हैं ठीक है ना भेज रहे हैं मंडू आलू से नहीं होगा तुमचा कुणाला केला नीचे अजून गाडी पूर्ण होला त्याला कुठे का गाडी मागवा
रानी इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं.
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा. रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी से बना.
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं. रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी बार एकदम सॉलिड.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात. वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है. अरे मेरे राजा सबका राजा प्योर मसाला.
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, Excellency Vice Minister, we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज दे रहे हैं ठीक है ना भेज रहे हैं मंडू अनुसार ही होगा तुमचा कुणाला केला नीचे अजून गाडी पूर्ण होला त्याला कुठे का गाडी मागवा
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला डिलीशियस हेल्दी एवरीडे
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, Excellency Vice Minister, we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज दे रहे हैं ठीक है ना भेज रहे हैं मंडू अनुसार ही होगा
between Afghanistan and Pakistan is, by all accounts, intensifying. And while war is supposed to be carried out between combatants, the cowardly Pakistan has decided to attack civilians, which include a drug rehabilitation hospital. They have killed 400 people in an airstrike in Kabul. This is exactly and happening just a few days after the Americans, who are Pakistan's closest allies, have attacked and killed 173 schoolgirls in Minab in Iran. Emboldened by what Trump has done, the Pakistanis have attacked a hospital. This is a very, very serious crime of war. They owe an explanation to the people across the world. They say they are targeting TTP hideouts, that is hideouts of the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. This was not a terrorist training camp. This was just a hospital. The most cowardly thing that anyone can do. But what else would you expect of Asif Muni?
And we get you our top headlines at this hour. Third Indian flagged crude oil tanker successfully arrives at Mundra port.
What's the stand for the government regarding the census? Sir, any comment on these the arrest of by the NIA, sir?
Chief Minister Khemchand Singh shrugs off from camera as Republic asks him to comment regarding the arrest of 7 foreign nationals by NIA. In another big blow to the Congress ahead of polls, former Assam Congress leader Pradyut Bordoloi joins BJP in the presence of Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma. TVK decided to go solo, announces it will contest Tamil Nadu elections independently across all 234 assembly seats. Death toll in Palam fire rises to 9. children. Several are still feared trapped. Rescue operations underway for the 5th hour. And Iran rejects de-escalation. Israel launches 61st wave of missile strikes against Israel in revenge for the killing of security chief. Good evening. Welcome to Republic. I'm Ridhum and our top focus is going to be Republic has accessed the 14-page court order of foreign mercenaries who have been arrested. It says the mercenaries supplied weapons, insurgent groups given terrorist hardware. The mercenaries trained armed groups. They were also in touch with terrorists armed with AK-47. Let me go across to our colleagues who are now joining us on the story. Sarthak is joining us from the capital. We've also got Linthoy joining us from Imphal and Anirudh from Guwahati. And as this continues, I'm going to first go across to Sarthak, who's joining us from the capital. Sarthak, Republic has accessed the 14-page court order. What does it say?
Well, Rhythm, exactly. We have accessed the court order, the remand order that was passed by the Patiala House Court here in New Delhi 2 days ago. This is something that Republic has gained exclusive access to. Well, the court order says that these accused, the 7 accused who have been taken into custody by NIA, which includes 1 US national and 6 Ukrainian nationals, the court has given them in police custody for 11 days. The court believes that there is a reason, enough reason and enough evidence provided by NIA that there is a prima facie case on conspiracy and some terror link operations being conducted by these 7 accused, and therefore this case specifically involves national security, and it's an important issue that has to be investigated by NIA. On that specific ground, the court has given them in 11 days of police custody. What we know of so far, the arguments that were put forth by NIA in this particular matter was that there are total 14 people who have entered into India illegally. They entered as tourists into the border regions of the country, and somehow they were traveling to Myanmar. So they were traveling from Europe through India, through Mizoram or Manipur, and then they were traveling to Myanmar. They were involved in terror, in providing drone facilities and drone trading programs to some groups in Myanmar. And these drones not only included surveillance testing and surveillance facilities, but they were also being trained on warfare, how to conduct these drones for warfare activities. So this is a huge development that has taken place so far. We have the exclusive access of the court order. The FIR shows that there were weapons being supplied. These terror groups were being provided AK-47. These 7 accused had access to these weapons, and there is a lot more to be investigated by NIA at this point. And on that specific ground, Patiala House Court here in New Delhi has given these accused to NIA on 11 days of police custody. Back to you.
All right. I want to also, Sarthak, tell all our viewers that we've got the maximum coverage on the story. We have Linthoy joining us from Imphal. We have Anirudh joining us from Guwahati. And as I introduce all of you, I want you to stay with us. We're also, viewers, going to take a look at who the foreign mercenary under scanner is. Matthew Van Dyke from Baltimore, who was arrested by the NIA. He entered restricted areas in Mizoram, crossing into Myanmar without authorization and alleged engagement with insurgent-linked groups. He also reportedly failed a CIA polygraph test in the past, allegedly denied multiple times by Iraqi forces between 2008 and 2010. And that's what we're trying to show you, Matthew. Who is Matthew that we've been trying to unravel, trying to understand. We take you through the details of the foreign mercenary under the scanner. This person has denied multiple times and he's failed a CIA polygraph test. He was arrested because of entry into restricted zones in Mizoram, crossed into Myanmar without authorization. I want to now also go across in Imphal to Linthoi, who's joining us. Linthoi, there is a clear 8-minute videos and mercenaries training videos. What are you picking up from Imphal? What are you picking up from your sources about the possible reason? And what sort of terrorist activity were these people involved in?
Yeah, despite the seriousness of the case, authorities in Mizoram and Manipur have not disclosed any official information so far regarding the arrest or any possible local connection. So there has been no statement yet from the state government or security agencies. For now, much of the information remains under wraps, and we are still waiting for clarity from Mizoram and Manipur government. Mizoram and Manipur shares a very long and sensitive border with Myanmar, and on September 1st, the drone bombing was reported in Manipur. So the terrorist connection might be so sure with the Manipur drone bombing. So it is the NIA to investigate about it, and it is the state authorities and the security agencies to release an official information about this. Back to you.
Okay, before I do this, let me also tell our viewers, Republic has also accessed the 8-minute mercenary training video. On camera, you can see the training of mercenaries in Myanmar. Armed foreign mercenaries taking on Janta. Training was given in an undisclosed location in Myanmar. AK-47 drones training given to insurgent groups. This is on camera. Investigations are finding that the group is provided pre-scheduled trainings in drone warfare assembly and jamming technology to ethnic armed organizations fighting the military junta in Myanmar. I want to on this also go across to my colleague Anirudh. But first I want to go across to our Deputy Executive Editor Shravan Sen, who's now joining us on this. Shravan, it's very clear that these suspects arrived in India on tourist visas. They traveled to Assam, they entered Mizoram. They are linked to ethnic armed groups, and investigation has found there was training being done. Support was being given to proscribed groups. What are you picking up from your sources?
Well, in fact, Rhythm, all this while, we thought that this was only about foreign mercenaries entering India and thereafter illegally crossing over to Myanmar to basically train ethnic armed insurgent groups there. But it now turns out that it is not just about training in Myanmar. The security concern is that there is a direct link with India-based insurgent groups, the links between foreign mercenaries and insurgent groups in India. And that's the reason why the cause of concern, it's a cause of concern. And more importantly, if you actually go through the 14-page court order in which there is a clear mention of the fact why the National Investigation Agency essentially believes that a thorough investigation is required. In fact, I'm given to understand that earlier today, CERT-IN has also been roped in, and the mobile phones of the accused is now being examined. Now, the reason why it is becoming a cause of concern for the security agencies is because of the direct link of these foreign mercenaries with the India-based insurgent groups. And not just that, it is also about weapon handling and training that has been given to these insurgent groups. Now, what we do not know is the insurgent groups, which are the insurgent groups that they have been in touch with. But there is a clear mention of the fact that these foreign mercenaries have been in touch, quote unquote, with terrorists armed with AK-47s. And that, I would say, is the biggest takeaway from the court order that has been accessed. And not just that, National Investigation Agency sources also indicating that this is at a preliminary stage, the investigation that has been carried out, because they say that the surveillance was being carried out for quite
quite some time. In fact, they were aware that the foreign mercenaries had landed in India, and their surveillance was being carried out all through this period that they were in India. When they landed in Guwahati, from Guwahati they had actually gone to Mizoram, that too without permit, and finally from Manipur is where they entered Myanmar. All this while, I'm given to understand that Rhythm, they were under the surveillance of the security agencies. It is only when they had returned, that's when the action was actually taken, because the security agencies wanted to basically document their exact role, their role of providing training to insurgent groups and ethnically armed groups in Myanmar. All of that, once it was documented by the central agencies, once they had returned to India from 3 different locations where these arrests have been made. One was in the national capital, the other happened to be in Lucknow, and the third was in Kolkata. And the other big concern is also about the group of Ukrainians who had come in. It is not just the 6 Ukrainians. What we do not know is that the full group of Ukrainians who had come, 16 of them, I'm given to understand, were given tourist visas, and they were here in India. What happened to the rest is something that we still do not know.
Do stay on with us. We're also going to go across to Anirudh to get a sense about what's been happening. Anirudh, it's very clear on camera, the training of mercenaries has been seen. The training that they were giving, the association that Shravan is mentioning with the EAGs are associated. These are anti-India insurgent groups. What are you picking up from your sources on how they entered, how they started training, and particularly the American citizen Matthew Aaron Van Dyke? He's a known military contractor and founder of certain organizations like Sons of Liberty International.
Multiple routes which they had used to infiltrate through India into Myanmar, and thereby they not only imparted training on arms uses and operation of arms, but also on high-end warfare like using of drone, and also modifying the drones to enable them to drop bombs whether in the army establishments in Myanmar or also in civilian areas in Manipur when the ethnic conflict was at its peak. Most of these mercenaries who had entered through India, they came here at the guise of missionaries, but they were clearly having no visa for participation in religious practices. They came here under the disguise of missionaries. They went to meet people in the border areas, and taking advantage of the porous Indo-Myanmar border, they managed to sneak in and out of Myanmar. And they had been doing this since long, even before the ethnic violence in Manipur. If we talk about the context, or if we bring into context the ethnic violence in Manipur also, before even that started, they had been making frequent tours to Myanmar after the junta rule came into effect in Myanmar, and they have been meeting the pro-democratic forces in Myanmar, not only the pro-democratic forces but also other militant and rebel groups which are based in Myanmar or who have been both who are operational in India as well as those who are operational in Myanmar. They gave training, and also we have access multiple videos. Just to confirm that we not only have access to one video, but we have got access to multiple videos, Rhythm, in where it is clearly visible they have been providing bulletproof vest and also imparting training on uses of drone in drone warfare. So this clearly establishes the the entire nexus and the route that they have used. And also, for that matter, in fact, we had also reported on this earlier on the involvement of the missionaries, particularly the foreign missionaries who often visit the northeastern states, and they taking advantage of the porous border, they sneak in and out of Myanmar, and the very need of the border fencing is also what underlines what emerges as one of the most important talking point now after this 7 foreign nationals have been arrested. Rhythm.
I also want to now go back to Sarthak. Sarthak, what happened in the Patiala House Court? The 11-day police custody has been given to the NI. 27, the case is coming up. You were telling us crucial parts of the exclusive order you've accessed. Give us a brief understanding of what was happening in the Patiala House Court today when these arrested foreign nationals were brought to the court.
Well, 2 days ago, these 7 accused, including 1 U.S. national and 6 Ukrainian nationals, were presented before ASJ Prashant Sharma's court, where certain arguments were made by the prosecution representing NIA, stating that they have plenty of evidence to prove that there were some terror links of these accused with some insurgent groups in Myanmar. They were traveling from Europe. Either they were using India as a route through Mizoram. They were traveling to Myanmar, or they had links to some insurgent groups here in India. That is something that the prosecution wanted to investigate. Well, we have also gotten the information that the lawyer who was representing these accused in this particular case, who was appearing on behalf of these accused on the day when these accused were presented before the judge, he made some arguments where he stated Article 32 of the Constitution, Article 32 of the Geneva Convention, and there were other key details that they did not have any link to these insurgent groups. They did not have any link to any terrorist group. But as a matter of fact, what we know of this at this point is that NIA has presented plenty of evidences in the court that they were in direct contact with some terrorist group who were carrying AK-47. These people were appointed to provide drone facilities and drone training facilities to these insurgent groups. They were basically smuggling drones here from India, where they were traveling from Mizoram to Myanmar, and they were providing these modern warfare techniques and training on these modern warfare techniques to these insurgent groups. So there is a plenty of information that was provided by NIA to the court, which gave the court a reasonable benefit of doubt that there is a prima facie case, that there could be a major conspiracy. It's a matter of national security, and therefore the NIA has been given an opportunity to investigate this matter further. The NIA also had given evidences and made an argument where they suggested that it's not just 7 accused that they have taken into custody. There are in total at least 14 accused who are still wandering off across the country. 7 have been taken into custody. There are 7 more who have to be taken into custody and questioned on these peculiar issues. What we know of so far, there is still a lot for NIA to investigate. This is a matter of national security, and on that specific ground, they have been given in police custody for 11 days. The next date of hearing in this particular matter is 28th of March, where they will be presented before ASJ Prashant Sharma again. And what further details NIA would be able to come up with, and what all evidences they will be able to come up with in this particular matter, that is something that only time will tell. Back to you.
I also want to now go across to Linthoy, joining us from Imphal. Linthoy, very clearly, all these people were picked up after a joint operation and understanding that the NI already had. That's why these simultaneous arrests took place in Kolkata, in Lucknow, and also of Mr. Van Dyke, who was picked up, Matthew, at the same time at the Kolkata airport. Now, a social media account that's believed to be linked to him has been described him as a media personality that is based in Ukraine, but he's also said that we're going to try and do a regime change. How are you looking at what's happening in Imphal and also the way they're trying to undermine the military junta there?
Absolutely. The thing is that changing a regime is not it's not on their hands. First of all, Manipur has been, undergoing into a very uncomfortable and in a very unfortunate situation since May 2023. But according to the NIA investigation, they have entered India since 2022 and started giving training to this ethnic armed groups in Myanmar. So basically the drone attack, since they are involved in this drone importing of drone from Europe. The drone attack first reported in Manipur on September 1, which was broke out after a brief lull of 3 months in the restive state. So the attack on Kostruk in Imphal West continues to this Kangpopi district, came from the neighboring hills and killing many others, injuring to several others. So the NIA is investigating the use of drones in the attacks, and the state police have sought technical help to understand the origin of the weapons. And also the then Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has also hand over this case to the NIA, and he also expressed that this is because of the intelligence failure, and he also made a statement that in this conflict a larger foreign hand is involved in the Manipur conflict. Back to you.
Thank you for giving us those details. I also want to thank Sarthak, who's been reporting at the Patiala House Court, Anirudh from Guwahati, and Linthoi joining us from Imphal. Shavan Sen also leading what's happening with the investigation at the NIA. It's a top focus story that we're continuing tracking. And coming up after a short break, Iran rejects de-escalation. Iran launches 61st wave of missile strikes against Israel in revenge for the killing of security chief Larijani.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर मसाला।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है ना भेज रहा हूं नहीं का फोन तो करा अरे अनुसरी होगा हो गया
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा से MDH का जलजीरा
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद ये तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज रहा हूं ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंडू नहीं का फोन तो करा अरे अनुसरी होगा हो गया तुम तो कमाल किया तो नीचे अब तुम गाड़ी ले पूर्ण वाला ना लोगों का गाड़ी मारवा
The
war between Afghanistan and Pakistan is, by all accounts, intensifying. And while war is supposed to be carried out between combatants, the cowardly Pakistan has decided to attack civilians, which include a drug rehabilitation hospital. They have killed 400 people in an airstrike in Kabul. This is exactly and happening just a few days after the Americans, who are Pakistan's closest allies, have attacked and killed 173 schoolgirls in Minab in Iran. Emboldened by what Trump has done, the Pakistanis have attacked a hospital. This is a very, very serious crime of war. They owe an explanation to the people across the world. They say they are targeting TTP hideouts, that is hideouts of the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. This was not a terrorist training camp. This was just a hospital. The most cowardly thing that anyone can do. But what else would you expect of Asif Munir?
Hello and welcome. You're watching live and breaking on Republic TV with me, Ishita Mitra. Now, viewers, our rolling coverage on the war in West Asia continues after Larijani and Soleimani. Israel now claims they've killed Iran's intelligence minister. We'll get you all the details and the updates coming from the war zone areas. But first up, let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. Third Indian flag crude oil tanker Jag Ladki successfully arrives at Mundra port.
What's the stand for the government regarding the census? Any comment on these the areas of going by the NDA, sir?
Manipur CM shrugs off the camera as Republic asks him to comment on regarding the arrest of 7 foreign nationals by NIA. In another big blow to Congress ahead of polls, former Assam Congress leader Pradyut Bordoloi joins the BJP in presence of Assam Chief Minister. TVK decides to go solo, announces it will contest the Tamil Nadu elections independently across all 234 assembly seats. Death toll in Palam rises to 9, including multiple children. Several are still feared trapped. Rescue operations underway for 5th hour. Iran rejects a de-escalation, launches 61st wave of missile strikes against Israel in revenge for the killing of their security chief Larijani. All right, viewers, our top focus at this hour. These visuals are coming live to you from the capital city of Iran. In Tehran, mourners have now gathered to bid a respectable farewell to their security chief, Ali Larijani. It's the final journey for Ali Larijani that's now underway in the capital city of Iran. Viewers, you can see a sea of people have gathered with Iranian flags to bid farewell to their security chief who was killed in the Israeli strikes just yesterday. Now, these are the visuals on your screen. There was a confirmation that came in from Iranian side earlier about his death. And now we're looking at these visuals coming to light as Iranians gather in the capital city to bid farewell to Ali Larijani, their security chief, somebody who was looking after the IRGC operations right after Khamenei was killed. He's somebody who's been closely linked with Iran's armed forces, looking both in the domestic front as well as coordinating about the attacks that are coming on the Gulf nations as well. All right, my colleague Gesu now joins me with more details on this. Gesu, what's the latest you're picking up about this final journey of Ali Larijani as Iranians gather to pay him a respectable farewell?
Thousands of people, a sea full of people on your screens right now. These are the scenes that are unfolding inside Iran as the Iranian people now prepare to lay to rest Ali Larijani, the National Security Council Secretary of Iran, a key figure in Iranian security apparatus. Now also remember, this is one of the most momentous killings, one of the most sought after assassinations when it comes to the US and Israel stand in this entire war after their preemptive strikes that killed the now slain Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In fact, also the fact that since the killing of Ali Khamenei, it was Ali Larijani who had taken full cognizance, full control of not just Iran's security situation, but also their response in the attack, in the war that is ongoing between Israel, Iran and the United States. Now, also very important to remember, US, when they began this attack, in their first preemptive strikes also, their main objective was very clear. Regime change is what they were siphoning again and again and again. But these visuals are testament that this is a situation far from a regime change. People are marching right behind Ali Larijani, the National Security Council of Iran, also responsible for taking all the decisions when it came to rebuttals, when it came to counter-striking both United States and even Israel, and not just that, but also the Gulf nations that came under attack. Now also remember, Ali Larijani was such a key figure. He was one of the most vocal leaders when it came to Iran. In fact, he voiced his dissent against Mojtaba Khamenei being chosen as the next Supreme Leader. Mojtaba Khamenei, the second son of the now slain Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei. Now remember, this is enough to tell you what was the importance of the opinion of Ali Larijani in Iran and in its leadership being chosen. Now also the fact that he gave US President Donald Trump open challenges time and again. He was last spotted at the Quds rally that took place in Tehran. This is an uprising against Israeli aggression in Palestine. And while that was ongoing, a day before that, Trump had said that, the entire top Iranian leadership is hiding in underground bunkers. And then President Pezeshkian, Ali Larijani, the National Security Council Secretary, and also the Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi came out fronting the rally against Israeli aggression, which was, by the way, also struck by the Israeli Defense Forces. And that looked like signaling, that looked like a warning shot that Israel had taken, warning Iran that this will come. And now that moment has arrived. These are the visuals of Ali Larijani on his last journey, with thousands of Iranians marching right behind his coffin. Ishita, back to you.
Right, Gesu, thank you for joining us. And now we're also being joined by retired Major General AGB Jenny on the broadcast. Thank you, sir, for joining us on Republic. So I want to ask you, we're getting some live visuals from Tehran. It is the farewell of Ali Larijani, their national security chief. Thousands have gathered to bid him farewell. And now these visuals are far from the regime change dreams that the US and Israel were thinking of. How do you gauge these developments, sir?
My personal view on this issue is, firstly, I feel a little convinced that, yes, Larijani has been killed. Because till yesterday or till this morning, there were doubts, there was a narrative war going on where one side was saying that we have bombed him out and the other side was keeping quiet about his demise. So now that you confirm the news, that matter stands settled. But having said that, let me say that this question of regime change is all a total bullshit. Because the regime change, they have been saying ever since June of last year, when the 12 days war with Israel took place, they were wanting a regime change there. They did all that bombing, all that nonsense, all that damage, all that try happened, but there was no regime change. So was it this time, on the 28th of February, when they bombed the Iranians and they killed Ayatollah Khamenei? That was with the intention of a regime change. But did a regime change happen? It did not, because one Ayatollah left and another Ayatollah has come in. They may knock 4 more Ayatollahs and one after another will come in. Because let's not forget that this is a civilization, Iran is a civilization which is 7,000 years old. You just can't bomb them out. civilizational strength they have. So therefore, one Ayatollah goes, another Ayatollah will come, and this regime change question is very, very hypothetical. Coming back to Larijani, now Larijani's killing, to my mind, will unify and solidify the unity of the people of Iran. You know, there were differences of opinion within the community of Iranians. Some were against the Ayatollah regime, some were in favor, some were wanting a more moderate regime, some were against the extremist, revolutionary kind of Islamist Shiite cult. You know, all this is now going to combine them. This is going to motivate the people to rally under the flag and for the sake of mere survival. Because now for the Iranians, it's a question of existence for survival.
Sir.
And therefore, they may kill Larijani. The IRGC is no deficiency of leaders. They are very highly motivated, strong Shiite cult revolutionaries. So they will find another Larijani to head the Security Council or the intelligence or the security agencies or the IRGC. But the fact remains, to my mind, and I conclude there, that Larijani's killing is going to actually come ulta onto the Americans and onto the Israeli and American combined. If they think that by killing Larijani they have succeeded in regime change and succeeded in crumbling Iran, they are, I think, mistaken, because the Iranians are going to stand up with much more vigor, much more strength and much more resistance now to say that we count in the Committee of Nations and we are not going to get counted down.
Very, very interesting points that you've raised. It does seem like a Hydra plant. When we compare this to Iran's security system, you kill one leader, another one props out. And we'll come back to you, sir, but we've got some breaking news coming in right now. After Larijani and Soleimani, Israel now claims they have killed Iran's intelligence minister. In fact, that's the latest blow coming into Iranian leadership. Ismail Khatib has now been killed, according to the latest claims made from the Israeli side. They're saying that they have knocked out Iran's intelligence minister this time. Now remember, this comes right after the security chief Ali Larijani and the Basij unit commander Soleimani was killed. And now another big blow, it seems, to Iranian leadership in terms of the intelligence minister being killed. And now Major General AGP continues to stay with us. Major General, coming back to you on this. Now, we were talking about that Iran's system is like a hydra. You know, you kill one stem, another stem comes out. You kill one leader, another one props out. Now, in the latest, it seems Israel has killed Iran's intelligence minister. Sir, you know, you were talking about how Iran is emerging as a defiant country, and it seems Donald Trump is trying to find a safe exit. So do you think with these killings of the top leadership, it's just a safe exit route that US and Israel are trying to find now?
I'm afraid no. No, definitely not. Because Donald Trump and his cohort of Netanyahu have got themselves stuck in an absolute quagmire, and they have got themselves stuck in deep, shitty mud, I would say. Because they got into this whole business without a political aim. What was the political aim? Well, to a military analyzer like me, I failed to see whether the Americans had any political aim. They started off with regime change. Then they said, okay, no, we are going to get them out of the nuclear, we're going to destroy their nuclear capability. They said the same thing they said in June 25. After the 12-day war, the Americans had claimed that we have destroyed their nuclear capability. How is it that within less than 1 year, the Iranians have suddenly cropped up with such a big nuclear capability again within no time? Their 450 kgs of enriched uranium was still there. Their thousands of kgs of plutonium material was still there. Where it is, the Americans couldn't find it. Whether they hid it in tunnels in the mountainous area, or where it was in Iran, or whether they have sent it to Russia, they don't know. So there was no political aim. They have kept on changing their goalposts. Then they said, we want to destroy their missile capability. They have not been able to do that. Iran has been producing 8,000 missiles to 10,000 missiles, drones every month. And these people are being able to just make the interceptors, the Patriots, 8 to 10 to 15 Patriots in a month. How are they going to combat? They had no political aim. So it is as a military analyzer, I want your viewers to know there must be a political aim to any war. Because out of that political aim emerges the military aim. From the military aim emerges the military strategy. And from the military strategy comes the fallout of the military targets and the military methodology of how that war is going to be processed. These fellows did not have they've just got their head into muck. And they're going to get themselves banned like hell now, as far as I can see it. Because if they're looking